Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. The Masters of War, the sequel. We have found ourselves in that place once again. We found ourselves as a society, as the world, in a place that, well, it might seem unfamiliar to this generation, but it might be more familiar to the previous generation if they're whoever's surviving that generation. I'm talking about the Vietnam era, but even going further back than that. And we're going to talk about this conflict, which is now in its 9th day officially on the calendar with Iran. There's a lot to cover there. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who has supported us during the winter fundraising drive. It's been absolutely incredible. Huge achievement for us, having met that target. And this is up on our website right now. If you go to 21stcenturywire.com, you go to the donate section, you will see their winter fundraising drive is there. One last push. So those of you who haven't yet had a chance to get involved, we want to push it to 20,000 this week. You guys help us make that happen. We've surpassed 16,000. We have about 16.5. So we have roughly $3,500 left to make it. What we've done to make it even easier, we put a QR code up on screen. That'll get you right to our fundraising page. You know, we have some staff we want to secure for 2026. We are expanding on all content that we're doing, written, video, as well as, you know, just the general upkeep, security, online management of our various assets. As you might know, we manage about 8 channels at the moment, in addition to 21st Century Wire. We also syndicate our podcast on all major audio streams. And we have all sorts of plans where we want to try to improve and make this business more sustainable. And we need your help to make that happen. So one last push, folks, for the winter fundraising drive. And we will pop an email out as well to all of you who have donated in the past, as well as our subscription list for the daily newsletter that we send out from 21st Century Wire. We've been able to parlay some of this support into on-the-ground reporting. It's allowed myself to be out of the studio and to be on the ground in places like Iran over the last 3 weeks, and also reporting on the cartel wars in Mexico, which we inadvertently landed in the middle of a cartel war, which we did some coverage on live here on the Sunday Wire, as well as on other platforms where we've circulated some of those reports. Many of you have seen those. So the winter fundraising drive, folks, get involved. One other thing I've been able to do was to invest in some new camera equipment, mobile camera equipment. You'll see a lot of these start popping up in the shorts, a lot more with some of the equipment that we've begun to procure because of your support for the winter fundraising drive. So thank you guys very much. These warmongering characters that we, unfortunately, they're dominating our world right now. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? And if you go to, well, one of the things that we've been featuring on our website in terms of reports. So here we are in our 9th day for this conflict. And it's been absolutely horrific. I want to talk about what's driving this. Definitely. But I also want to share with you a report, video report here. These are scenes from Tehran. And I'm going to share that with you right now. Hold on for one moment. We're going to bring up one of those reports here. That's scenes from Tehran right there. The United States are bombing oil storage facilities, civilian oil storage facilities. They're basically just doing scorched earth policy right now. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting what the United States has done. Just, you have to remember, they started this war on a false pretext. They lied. Just as bad as George Bush and WMDs, okay? In fact, it's worse, because at least the Bush neocons had respected the public enough, even very little, but respected the public just a little bit, enough to go through the effort of faking the intelligence and putting on a good show for us. With these miscreants currently occupying the U.S. government and the White House, and with their handlers in Tel Aviv, they feel they hold you, the people, in such contempt. Donald Trump hates the people. Pete Hegseth and all these other criminals that have conspired to mount this undeclared, unprovoked, illegal war of aggression. They despise you, the people. They hold the public in such contempt. They feel they're above having to even fake the intelligence. They just make things up as they go along and then just say they're going to kill, they're going to destroy. And if the Iranian people don't bend to the will of the great United States war power machine, that they're going to kill them and they're going to die under our bombs. That's what Pete Hegseth has said publicly. These people, make no mistake what you're dealing with here. This is pure evil. Okay? This is next level above the Bush, Cheney neocons. Okay? Those were schoolboys. Okay, they were at least pretending to play within the bounds of law, and even pretended to justify what they were doing, even if they were fabricating the excuse for it. And they at least went through the effort of trying to get consensus for their lie. This criminal cabal that is currently in control of the U.S. military, that is currently bankrupting the United States, bankrupting the global economy, destabilizing the Middle East, and ultimately they will destabilize the world. These people are, I don't even know, well, we'll show you what's driving this, which is even more frightening. So I think at this point, well, let's look at the person we mentioned. So Pete Hegseth is the self-styled Secretary of War. He calls himself the Secretary of War. Okay. That's what he calls himself. And here he is at a recent press conference. Listen closely to what he's saying. We're going to bring this up on screen in just a moment. Just had a delay on our system. Used to be called the Secretary of Defense. That's so passé, apparently.
Flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the RGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters, controlling the skies, picking targets. Death and destruction from the sky all day long. We're playing for keeps. Our warfighters have maximum authorities granted personally by the president and yours.
Yeah, granted by the president and yours truly, he said. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. They have no authority to wage war, to wage an undeclared war of aggression against another sovereign state. They have no authority. That authority is only given to them, it should be, through the U.S. Constitution. But they bypassed that, and they've been able to bypass that because the Israeli lobby, a foreign country, has bribed and paid off all of our congressmen and senators, at least 80% of them, in the U.S. legislature. So they've all stood down. They could have put the War Powers Act up to vote last 2 weeks ago, but instead they delayed it because led by an Israeli-controlled legislator named Chuck Schumer, the Democrat Senate leader. He specifically put the brakes on the vote because he knew the war was coming last Friday, so he wanted to delay it because he knew that once the war was in motion, that there would be a less chance, or the Israeli lobby knew, that's why they instructed people like Schumer to delay it. They knew that once the war was in motion, very cynical, that they wouldn't get the votes to stop it. And of course, they had a late vote after the war had already begun, after the bombs were being dropped. And of course, most congressmen and senators completely caved. Many Democrats in the House pushed back, and in the Senate pushed back on it, but it was too late. They would have won the vote before. So Democrats, if you are truly anti-war, you need to basically look at your colleague Chuck Schumer, who's a viper in the nest and an absolute, agent of the Israeli war machine, and the U.S. war machine as well. So while some Democrats talk a good ball game, pretending to oppose Trump, they are absolutely on board with the war, 100%. And this guy here that you're seeing, Pete Hegseth was a nobody a year and a half ago. He was plucked out of obscurity. He was a weekend host at Fox News. He has no rank in the U.S. military worth even mentioning. I think the highest rank he attained as a reservist was a major. But the Israeli lobby selected him. They ordered Donald Trump to make him head of the Pentagon, even though he had no experience and a very problematic and scandal-ridden personal life. It includes allegations, or, well, more than allegations, depending on which reports you read, but alcoholism and physical abuse of his partner. I believe he had to make a payout. Hush money was paid by Pete Hegseth to a former partner. That's the allegation. You can read the reports yourself. Be that as it may. That's why they chose him. He has no experience, and he has a problematic personal history. And he's young. He has no life experience other than sitting in front of a teleprompter on the weekends at Fox. Wasn't even good enough to be an actual anchor. And claims to have written all these books, but as we know from the other presenters at Fox News, many of these people, the network or the company that markets their books, employ ghostwriters to write their books for them. And then these people on Fox, like Pete Hegseth, Bill O'Reilly, and others, Brian Kilmeade, the list goes on. They've all got endless books. Where do they find time to research and write these books? Well, most likely because they don't write them. Ghostwriters do. But their reputations are built on these books. These are just marketing exercises and money-making schemes that they're able to promote on a major cable news network like Fox. So he was selected because he was unqualified. For Pete Hegseth, he won the lottery. He went from zero to suddenly being one of the most powerful people on the planet, pretending that he built the military. Just like Donald Trump talks like it's his military. The power has gone to these people's heads, and it should be no surprise. Because when you take somebody, when a criminal cartel selects somebody like this and pulls them from obscurity, and it puts them in the most powerful position where they have the power of life and death over millions of people, and they themselves are corrupt inherently. They're selected because of that, not in spite of it. But that corruption goes even deeper than we could possibly imagine. And that's the most frightening part. It didn't end there. And just to give you a glimpse into the psychology of what you're dealing with here, this is Pete Hegseth in a recent interview. And, they're having a hard time concealing the mask that they're trying to hide behind here. Bear in mind, he should not be in the position he is.
Put U.S. personnel in any more danger than they otherwise would be?
Well,
the Russian involvement.
No one's putting us in danger. We're putting the other guys in danger. That's our job. So we're not concerned about that. We mitigate it as we need to. Our commanders factor all of this. But the only ones that need to be worried right now are Iranians that think they're going to live.
Wow. So the only people that should be worried are Iranians that think they're going to live. And we see this week, I just showed you a clip. They're hitting densely populated civilian areas because they've run out of military targets, because they've run out of precision munitions. So now they're using heavy bombs indiscriminately, targeting civilian infrastructure and killing civilians, as well as environmental damage and poisoning the air and the water, just like these animals did in Iraq when they destroyed Iraq. These are the same people. Pete Hegseth also took part in the Iraq debacle, as well as the Afghanistan farrago, and for his great piece on his resume, he was a guard at Guantanamo Bay, lording over goat herders, teachers, and taxi drivers, which were imprisoned in the U.S. torture facility off the coast of Florida, Guantanamo Bay. That's one of his claims to fame. So, great pedigree here. I mean, this guy. And, watch him during this segment. It's interesting. He's hyperventilating. And I've worked in media for a few years, and he is very, very, he's not confident. He doesn't have the moral foundation to pull off the act that he's pretending. He's defensive. You see his neck cocked back. He's hyperventilating during his answers. He's very nervous because somewhere deep down inside, is as evil and misguided as this individual is, he knows that he's struggling to uphold the facade. And mind you, this is someone with allegations of alcoholism and perhaps more, as well as of violent tendencies. So he's already unstable. He's already unhinged. And who knows what this guy's doing after hours to blow off steam. I mean, that's just, we don't even want to imagine. But, you find these people that are just torn, walking contradictions. And the worst part about this is he pretends to be pious. He claims to be a Christian, which is quite extraordinary. And many of them do in this new, I don't even call it neocon. It's something else. It's this sort of faux Christian nationalist sort of cult that has formed around Donald Trump. So let's bring that up now. Let's talk about this, the holy war on Iran. Now, I didn't make that graphic up there. That's a billboard in Israel. Donald Trump is Israel's greatest president. I kid you not, there with Mike Huckabee, who's another religious fanatic, who not particularly bright, like from a basic IQ point of view, but incredibly dangerous. He was selected by Israel to be the U.S. ambassador. You see, the problem here is the Israeli lobby have handpicked everybody in the Trump administration, from Marco Rubio to Mike Waltz to Pam Bondi to Mike Huckabee. They're picking the most corrupt, the stupidest, the weakest, the most religiously fanatic. These are the people Israel is selecting. They don't care if Donald Trump runs America into the ground. They really don't care. In fact, that's part of their plan. They don't care if Donald Trump destroys the Republican Party. They don't care if the Republicans lose the House and Senate. That's why they go and snatch cabinet positions from safe House and Senate seats, which is completely stupid from a political point of view, but it suits Israel down to the ground. Why? People ask this question. Well, I'll answer it. Why is Donald Trump the first little political lesson here? This is Political Science 101. Okay. I don't pretend to be a political science, but I do have a postgraduate master's degree in political science. I don't pretend to be a political science, though. I am an analyst, more of a geopolitical analyst. But let me just teach you a lesson here. In the history of the United States, no president has habitually pulled people out of safe seats in the House or Senate. It's like suicide for your party. If you want to maintain a majority If the goal is to maintain a majority in the House and the Senate, why would you raid safe seats to fill cabinet positions that any idiot couldn't do? You can just pull anybody and stick them as the head of a department. I mean, and you know, the press aren't really going to pay that much attention. The focus is always on the president. Why? Israel requires that Donald Trump do that because Israel only has control over congressmen and senators because they catch them and donate to them and groom them from their first entry into politics. They don't do that for people in academia, or people in the diplomatic corps, or people who find their way into cabinet positions from other routes. The Israeli lobby do not have control over those people, but they do have control over all of these people in the House and Senate. That's why they instructed Trump to select, like the new Department of Homeland Security, this John Wayne character, who's a complete psycho, to replace the hair model, Kristi Noem, the psychotic soccer mom who has just been sacked and replaced by somebody even more psychotic. And of course, as expected, he was lifted out of the House of Representatives. So again, Israel doesn't care if the Republicans lose the midterms because they've already worked on buying and securing the entire Democratic Party. They don't care. They don't care about Trump at the end of the day. He's getting a lot of he's being lauded by the Israelis and the lobby now, but they'll throw him under the bus just as soon as they're done with him. He is just a means to an end for Israel. So there's Huckabee and Trump. Trump is Israel's greatest president. Yes, that's a billboard in Tel Aviv. Amazing, right? There's a holy war. These people believe they're fighting a holy war, or at least that's what they say. And this is a particular problem. And I want to point to this article, an excellent piece here by Freddie Ponton. This has gotten great reviews. Crusader-in-Chief Pete Hegseth's Christian Zionist mission to help Israel confront Iran. Being generous on the title there. I would have worded it differently, but Freddie's very diplomatic. But the content in this article is so damning. This is the best article on the internet right now for this topic. This one. Okay. These people claim to be Christians. Let me tell you, they are anything but. They're anything but. Let me just tell you, this isn't just about, religious fanatics, Christian Zionists like Mike Huckabee, who is openly calling for the Greater Israel Project to take over the entire Middle East. And he believes that this is going to accelerate the end times, and then there'll be a rapture and everyone will go to heaven. And Jesus will return and everyone will go to heaven. These people that advocate the slaughter of Palestinians, not just Palestinian Muslims. Mike Huckabee supports the slaughter of Palestinian Christians. He says nothing when historic Christian churches are razed to the ground by U.S. bombs and U.S. F-35s with Israeli pilots. Mike Huckabee has nothing to say about this. That Christians are being ethnically cleansed and slaughtered in the West Bank by fanatical, violent Jewish settlers. Mike Huckabee has no problem with this. He supports it. He's all in with Bibi Netanyahu because Mike Huckabee believes this is going to just accelerate the return of Jesus Christ and the rapture. He believes that by killing Arabs, that Israel is doing God's work. This is Mike Huckabee's deep, deep-seated belief because he doesn't see, like Zionists in Israel, he and others like him do not recognize Arabs as full humans. So this is the toxic, ethnocentric, ethno-nationalist ideology. And where does this come from? It doesn't come from the Middle East. It comes from Europe. And you can see these are the people that have been lifted into the ascendancy in the U.S. government. And the modern state of Israel is a European-dominated ethno-nationalist, and when I say ethno, white ethno. Jews do not, in Israel, white European Jews do not consider black Jews or Ethiopian Jews as legitimate. They had an official state policy to sterilize them without their knowledge. Did you know that? Sterilize the women without their knowledge. Ethiopian Jewish or African Jewish immigrants in Israel. That was a state policy. You don't believe me? It's not a conspiracy theory. Google it up. Go Google it up. So I'm just giving you an example just so you understand the mindset of these people. They do not think or have the same beliefs or value system as the rest of the world. They believe that they are somehow superior for religious or ideological or racial reasons. There can be no doubt about it. And let me just put you into the frame here. Now, this was a documentary by Al Jazeera. I'm going to play a couple of clips of this because it's so important. Not only is it the problem with Mike Huckabee and people like Pete Hegseth in cabinet positions, or even legislators that are fanatics, religious fanatics. This problem has infested the command structure of the U.S. military. This is a documentary called Praying for Armageddon. It features Colonel Larry Wilkerson and others giving their testimony about this problem within the U.S. military, and it's being directed by guess who? Israeli organizations that are helping to steer and work with Christian Zionist organizations that are trying to proselytize and indoctrinate U.S. soldiers from basic training, from the minute they sign up for basic training. And now we have a genuine problem that has just spread through and infected the entire U.S. military structure. What I'm going to show you is absolutely frightening, but I think it's important. We have a couple of clips. We'll discuss them, but you have to hear this and understand this. And I shared some of this on the UK column on Friday's news, if you guys watched it. But I have some additional clips here. But I think everybody needs to see this. And again, we'll try to share the link with you on this documentary. It's done by Al Jazeera. It's I think Lee Fang's one of the lead investigators, if I'm not mistaken. But this is just an outstanding piece of journalism. But watch and listen.
Most of the young people that come into the military are there probably because they're trying to figure out who they are. From an evangelistic standpoint, I've always referred to them as ripe as black bananas.
Chaplains are increasingly coming from the fundamentalist sects. These evangelical fundamentalist chaplains go to some place where basic training graduates, and they say beforehand in their meeting, these troops are at their most vulnerable. They've been racked and trained to death. Go get them.
Of the Holy Spirit.
We try to reach our recruits immediately. There are 450,000 recruits in the freshman class of this next year's armed forces. That's going through boot camp. We will touch about 200,000 of them this next year.
They had something like 70 baptisms at Fort Jackson at the end of basic training exercises. And they proselytize and they get them, they take them down and baptize them, and then they're part of the Christian nationalists.
I mean, folks, you have no idea how deep this problem goes. And so much so, and I'll show you, we'll give a little bit more, we'll give you more evidence on this, but many not all U.S. soldiers are falling prey to this indoctrination, and many of them have lodged official complaints through the military and also through a legal aid organization that represents soldiers who do not want to be a part of the U.S. military that's under a fanatical religious extremist command structure. okay? There's reports of them being intimidated because they're not, quote, Christian enough. And these commanders, up to very high ranks, are calling this war in Iran a holy war. This is the war of Armageddon, they say. This is what they're telling some of their troops. This would never have any place in the U.S. military 5, 10, I would say 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It'd be unthinkable. And yet this is now out in the open. That should frighten everybody, especially looking at the maniacal and psychotic comments by the self-styled Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. I'll show you more about Pete Hegseth in a moment. But that was, now let's look at another clip from this. And again, equally as shocking. I mean, some of you may have seen this material before, but for those of you who haven't, this is so important that you do see it.
Wilkerson recommended that I talk to Mikey Weinstein. He's with the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and he's worked for the last 2 decades shining a light on religious fundamentalist influence within the military.
It's okay, you did a good job.
This is kind of a shadow war.
When people come to us, they are freighted with terror. They are terrified of reprisal, revenge, retaliation. We're closing in on 76,000 U.S. Marines that are clients of ours, and about 95% of them are Christians themselves, being dehumanized and marginalized for not being Christian enough.
The military ministry of Crew only does 3 things, really. We win people to Christ, we build them up in their faith, and we send them out into the world to do the same thing.
There are probably 36 parachurch organizations, some of them well-known, like Campers Crusade for Christ Military Ministries, Focus on the Family, Officers Christian Fellowship, that are incredibly involved in the military. They have offices on military bases, they have senior military officials. We call those fundamentalist Christians or Dominion Christians. The 7 Mountains Mandate, the New Apostolic Reformation. Their job is to transform the military and the militaries of the world into this version of this weaponized Christianity. Jerry Boykin, former 3-star general, made it clear that when Jesus comes back, he'll be carrying an AR-15. It's not a veneer. I mean, these are true believers.
The Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. And in Revelation 19, it says when he comes back, he's coming back as a warrior, riding a white horse with a blood-stained white robe, carrying a sword. And I believe that sword he'll be carrying when he comes back is an AR-15.
I mean, so this is real, ladies and gentlemen. These are the people right now that are driving this war against Iran. This is how the Israeli lobby and the U.S. government have been able to get buy-in from the military. Every single person taking part in this is a war criminal. Right down to the conscript or the sort of Marine private, you're all war criminals. You're not fighting for America. You're not fighting for freedom. You're not fighting for democracy. You are initiating World War III on behalf of a foreign country and a foreign lobby and a very corrupt corporate transnational military industrial complex and AI industrial complex. That's who you're fighting for, not Jesus. Where in Jesus's teachings is carpet bombing? I missed that part, that thou shalt must carpet bomb innocent civilians day and night as instructed by your Secretary of War, the psychopath, Pete Hegseth. Where's that in the New Testament? I don't know. I've read a lot of it. I can't find anything about, vaporizing thousands of civilians, siege warfare, starving them, killing them. Maybe in the maybe what Bibi Netanyahu's interpreting from the Old Testament, destroying and the Amalek. Again, literal or distorted interpretation of religious texts by religious fanatics to justify the killing of others. common problem, folks. Seems like we haven't learned our lessons, have we? No, we haven't. Oh, and if it only ended there, we could just go to sleep at night thinking maybe we can overcome this problem. But it doesn't end there. That's the problem. This problem is going to persist. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't even want to get into the boat that the United States torpedoed an unarmed Iranian ship and called it a great military victory and didn't rescue any of the survivors. Thank God Sri Lankan Navy saw fit to try to rescue 30 survivors. Probably 150 are dead or something like that. I mean, just absolutely disgusting. But that's where we are. Look, I could show you more of this, but in the interest of time, we might have a couple more clips. Maybe, we might show during the overdrive segment. But I mean, it's just pretty unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable. I think I'll tell you what. There's one more that I think you have to see. There's one more. I mean, let's take a look at this if we can. There's one more clip that I think you have to see. Let's see if we can scare that one up. But what you have to understand is there's a total synchronicity at the moment between the military, the corrupt political, and everything that's being directed by the Israeli lobby. I'm just trying to pull this from our archive, and we're having some. We just have to do a little additional search here. Okay, here we go. Right, watch this.
Never in the history of the world have all the players been on the stage. Iran, Russia, China, Europe, America. Everything is absolutely perfect.
Perfect for John Hagee, this absolute maniac, religious fanatic.
The final battle for global supremacy will be the mother of all wars at Armageddon.
There are two Armageddon lobbies in the world. There are the extreme Islamic Armageddon lobby that believe in a final conflict between Islam and everyone else. And then there is the Armageddon lobby of American evangelicals. Evangelical American voters in the Republican Party want a final conflict with all other religions, all other political points of view. They see it as us versus them, true Christians versus everyone else.
Nation shall rise up against nation. And as we see these things increase in intensity and frequency, we can know that the Lord is going to return.
We don't want peace, we being evangelicals. We want Armageddon. Bring it on. Their view of Zionism is not going to either help Israel or any individual Jew. Their view of Zionism is apocalyptic. So when Israel is finally attacked by, say, a nuclear-armed Iran, that suits the Christians fine. It's exactly what they're prophesying. Then we'll have a big last battle. Jesus comes back, and we're all going to heaven.
Are you listening, Iran? Are you listening, Russia? God's going to wipe you out.
The scary thing is we are armed with the largest and most powerful military on earth and thousands of nuclear weapons. And so when you put Armageddon lobby together with American power, it's a different deal.
So, folks, you can see what the problem is here. You know, what we're showing you, this is very real. A lot of these people in power, this is what's guiding them. Some people are pretending to follow this, and they're really just using the Christian narratives for the gullible to get them to, you know, fight the wars or go along with it. They themselves are not actually religious. Their religion is money. That's their number one. And that not just Christians, you have people in all sects in the world that use religion as a facade. Look at the Gulf states as an example. They're all about money and power. And the religion is just window dressing in order to maintain that power. They try to be outwardly pious. The same with the U.S., the same with the Trump administration. Now, on that topic, where we're going to go right now, I have to show you a clip from the White House. And these outward displays of, you know, alleged piety and virtue signaling, which is just nauseating at this point. This is like now sort of stock in trade, at least with this president. You know, these people, listen, they're fanatics. Okay, this is not normal. This is not normal. There's nothing normal about it. There's nothing Christian about it. This is a total perversion. This is Donald Trump, one of the prayer breakfasts here. And the woman in the red coat, pay attention to her. That's Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, who's a complete nut job. Okay? Watch.
Honored to come before your presence today, lifting up the arms of our president. We pray for your continued blessing and favor to rest upon him. We pray for wisdom from heaven to flood his heart, his mind, and Lord, you will guide him in these challenging times that we're facing today. I pray for your grace and your protection over him. I pray for your grace and protection over our troops and all of our men and women serving in our armed forces. And Father, we just pray you'll continue to give our president the strength that he needs to lead our great nation as we come back to one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We pray your heavenly blessing upon him in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a cult. Okay? The U.S. government is occupied. Okay? This is a cult that's being steered. It's being controlled by a foreign lobby. This is a problem, okay? But this is the reality of the situation right now. You got to accept this is, if you're still on the MAGA and the QAnon, you know, delusional magic carpet ride at this point, folks, it's time to wake up. These people are actively trying to trigger World War III. Whether consciously or not, that is what is happening. That's where this is going to end up. It's not going to be contained. And whether it takes 6 months or 12 months or 2 years, the U.S., this administration, this Israeli-occupied, controlled administration, this government, this is a coup. They want to put U.S. boots on the ground in Iran, and they will, given enough time. Now, you might say there might be hawks on YouTube and saying, oh, Iran's won this, the U.S. is going to lose, and da-da-da. I don't know who's going to win or lose. But I know one thing is guaranteed. The United States has the capability of killing a lot of people, as does Israel. They've already proven they can do it. They've proven they have no conscience. They've proven that they'll do it, and they don't care if anybody opposes them, because no one's strong enough to stop them without risking major global conflagration. But that conflagration may end up coming anyway by the end of this. They don't care. These people are arrogant. They're corrupt. They hide behind the Christian identity, Christian faith, pretending it's some kind of armor of God. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. This is a cult, a type of a Christian nationalist cult, but it's much deeper than that. They believe that they can bring World War III if they will it. That's the difference between, Christian Zionist end times fanatics and, well, they have a lot in common with ISIS. Okay, Christian Zionists and evangelicals and ISIS are two sides of the same coin. And so are Zionists, Jewish Zionists. They're all the same. They're different flavors of the same type of extreme fanaticism. Okay? Yeah, that's what you have to understand. There's very little difference between them. It's superficial, the difference. At the core, they're nihilists. And these are cults. They're predicated on power and manipulating large groups of people to do things for the interests of a very small elite cadre at the top. Okay. But generally, the difference between the Christian Zionist end times eschatology and the end times that many Muslims follow is the Christians are crusaders. They believe in thou will it will happen. Thou will it. In other words, they're going to make the prophecy happen. They're actively trying to push the narrative to create the prophecy with their own hands and actions. Whereas many many in the Islamic faith who recognize an end times narrative, they're not actively working to try to make it happen. That's the big difference. They're not crusaders in the Christian sense. And that's the danger. And the crusaders have nuclear weapons. So here's Pete Hegseth. Now, let's look at Pete Hegseth for a moment. And by the way, go to 21st Century Wire and get this article and share it. It's one of the most important articles we've ever published. The links in here, the resources are all there. Everything you need, it's a one-stop shop about what we're talking about right now. Okay? But this is the Secretary of War here, the self-styled Secretary of War. That's Pete Hegseth. You can see he's got the Cross of Jerusalem tattooed on his chest, and on his arm you can see an AR-15 Jesus rifle and a flag and some other markings and illustrations and whatnot. But that's not the most interesting thing. So yeah, he believes he's a crusader. He believes that he is taking part in the 9th or 10th crusade, that this is another crusade. Okay. But here he is showing off in front of the troops, pretending to be like one of the boys. And you can see we blow up his bicep here and says dos voit in Latin, upper bicep. That means thou will it. And he's saying thou will or God wills it. He's basically, this is very similar to the occult or the Kabbalist type of, extreme kind of occult, esoteric. It's very, very similar. Okay. It's fanaticism. But below that is something in Arabic. That's what I want you to also look at here. That's Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. Then he changed the name to Secretary of War because he wanted to start a war, and now that war is happening. And that's the Arabic there. And that translates roughly into this. He's got his Arabic writing tattooed below his Latin dus vote. And it's kafir. Kafir roughly translated as infidel. Infidel. So Pete Hegseth has infidel tattooed on his body. Okay? It means unbeliever. So, one might look at this and say, oh, he's doing that to scare the Muslims. And to some degree, I can see a lot of crazy, psychotic U.S. military people will have like skull and crossbones or some sort of satanic tattoos to show what warriors they are, and to somehow, think in some way they're scaring the savage Hajis or Muslims or whatever names they would call them over the years after 9/11. But here he's saying, I'm an infidel. I'm an infidel. I'm an unbeliever. I'm an infidel. In Arabic, the message is the same. So when these people are calling themselves infidels, believe them. Believe them. He's got that next to the cross of Jerusalem. So he's an infidel crusader. And so just think about how this motivates the enemies of the United States or Islamist extremism. They can look at this and it's basically giving them what more do we need to case closed, folks. So people like Pete Hegseth in their psychopathy are motivating the opposition they claim to be fighting. These people are crazy, okay? And they put the Israeli lobby, the billionaire class, the Mary Madelsons of the world, have installed people like this into the most powerful position in the world right now. And nobody could push back against it because all of our congressmen and in the Senate confirmation hearings, they're all bought and paid for by the same billionaire lobby that put Pete Hegseth in. So it's a no-brainer, folks. I mean, how much more explanation do we need? So that's the long and the short of that. But another thing came up in this article by Freddie Ponton at 21st Century. JINSA. It's one of many Jewish organizations working with the U.S. military. They're called the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, JINSA. It's very strange. Like, what are they doing with our military? Well, they're taking our generals and admirals for indoctrination tours to Israel. So they're indoctrinating the command structure. They're trying to identify the potential gullible religious fanatics within the military, bring them to Israel for these very, very well-organized indoctrination tours, where there's all sorts of, let's just call it, quote, team building. And they're really pushing the Christian Zionist angle. And the IDF and the Israeli government love this because this is how they inject their ideology back into the U.S. military all the way down the command structure through programs like this. This is not the only organization. Okay, this is one of dozens of organizations. We just chose this one as an example. The full links are in the article. You can go and check this out for yourself. Don't take our word for it. Follow the links. So, giving you sort of an idea of what we're dealing with here. Now, the other component to this, and I'm going to save this for the overdrive segment, but the AI component is the next part of this story. Look at the hellscape in Gaza. I don't need to show the images anymore. I might do if there's one or two up here, but no, we've eliminated a lot of that from our bank of images. But that hellscape is also a result of the Israeli and U.S. Joint Command prosecuting the genocide in Gaza. Joint operations. It's not separate. That's one of the big lies that the U.S. government has managed to fool the public, saying that Israel's doing everything in Gaza. No, it's Joint Command. And they're relying on AI to make decisions on targeting, to qualify, quote, qualify targets. So everything is scored as somehow, it's not whether it's a terrorist target or not, it's all done on a spectrum. Targets are given like social credit scores, worthiness of whether they should survive or not. And if that dial tips over the 50% mark, a little bit into the red, boom. Well, we better, just in case, we might as well, better be safe than sorry. Let's just flatten that building. Let's just destroy that city block. They're doing it to southern Lebanon now. They're doing it to Beirut, a major Middle Eastern city. They're ordering tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to evacuate whole city blocks so that they could be flattened. And they're justifying this, claiming that it's a war on terror. Israel's doing that in other countries, not just Gaza. And everyone's able to sit back, and the U.S. brass love this. It's like, no, we don't have to be responsible. It's the computer. It's the AI. And we've done our risk assessment, and it's too risky to let that building or that hospital or that school stand. We have to destroy it. Oh, it's not me, it's the computer. That's where we're heading. So you've got these fanatics, religious nut jobs infused into the military, reliant on computers now, and computers that, when running war game scenarios, I will give you a sneak preview. We'll talk about this in the next segment. Study finds that ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini deploy tactical nuclear weapons in 95% of 21 simulated war game scenarios and never surrendered. The problem is they found the AI always leans towards the use of nuclear weapons. So what I'm telling you, I'm leading you to this part of the story for a reason. Everything I just said in the last 5 minutes, this is the natural conclusion. That's why you should be concerned. And these people are talking about a preemptive nuclear strike, tactical or strategic, whatever, low yield or high yield against Iran, to prevent them from, I don't know what. They don't have Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. So the people who do have them want to use them to prevent Iran from getting them, because clearly they can't win a conventional war. They didn't tell you that before they launched the war, of course, but it's kind of how it goes. So I'm just putting you in the frame here and just letting you know this is what we're dealing with, okay? And one last thing on Pete Hegseth, and this cannot be stressed enough. Why was Pete Hegseth selected by Mary Madelson and Netanyahu to be Trump's Secretary of Defense? Why would they select, a 42-year-old with no experience, with no rank in the U.S. military, who's just an average reservist with this checkered personal life, whose greatest achievement career-wise is to be a mediocre weekend host on a propaganda platform like Fox News owned by Rupert Murdoch? I mean, why would you put that person in charge of the Pentagon? Well, here's why. 2018.
And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital, was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen.
Well, let me tell you how it can happen. Israel knows how it can happen. A false flag. Israel, I would not put it past them to blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The problem is there's a Muslim holy site, second most holy site in Islam is on the so-called Temple Mount. It's Al-Aqsa Mosque. And people like Pete Hegseth would like to get rid of it and build the third temple. Pete Hegseth is a paid-up member of the Red Heifer Third Temple cult. He's at the King David Hotel in Jerusalem giving the speech. That's why he was selected for Secretary of Defense, now Secretary of War. It's because of this. He was identified early on by the Israeli lobby as that's their man. That's the guy that they could, if they could get him into position, they would have total control over him. And in terms of waging World War III and, doing a false flag on Al-Aqsa Mosque and blaming it on Iran. And then you'd have massive sectarian fighting between Sunni and Shiite Muslims. And the Israelis and the Americans would love, and the British, quite frankly, would love nothing more than to watch an internecine war between Islamic sects. So any Muslims watching, don't fall for it. Okay? They want you to fight each other as long as you're not fighting them or, resisting them. You heard it from the horse's mouth, folks. So that's Pete Hegseth, 2018, 8 years ago at the King David Hotel, of all places. I don't have to tell you the history of the King David Hotel, site of one of the first modern terrorist attacks, where Jewish terrorists killed British soldiers, and many people died. And it was one of the biggest terrorist attacks that helped to intimidate the British and the global community to fast track the creation of the state of Israel, and also the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian population, the native Palestinian population. That's an ethnic cleansing and genocide which is still going on to this day. And they're now expanding that ethnic cleansing and genocide into Lebanon. So the Greater Israel Project, Pete Hegseth is 100% behind it. He supports all of this, as you can see. That actually happened. And he actually said that. So just so you know. So look, we can talk about that more during the extra. Look, and before I got a special segment, I'm going to play. Special guest dropped by before the show. It was dark. His sun wasn't up, but it was just last night. So we pre-recorded it, a part of it anyway. The full interview we'll put up on 21wire.tv for members, and then we'll eventually repost that publicly. But I've got a little clip from that. The title of this program is The Masters of War. That's the theme of today's show. That's a great track by Bob Dylan, a classic. But we talked to Joseph about, anti-war songs. He's just written one. He's going to share with us. We'll play that. We'll play Joseph's live rendition, and then I'll play a video that he just produced. Simple video, but we'll play that during the break, as well as another new track by the Real Anthem Band. But with, carpet bombing cities, the U.S. has done this before in Dresden, in Germany, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the leveling of Pyongyang during the Korean War, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Operation Rolling Thunder, LBJ, Henry Kissinger. Okay. The U.S. has done this before. A lot of international treaties, laws, institutions have been put in place to prevent this type of total warfare with no real objective other than to try to kill your way to victory. This is what Israel does routinely, and especially since October 7th. And this is what the U.S. are adopting as their new doctrine. You cannot tell the difference between this administration and the Israeli regime. The Trump regime and the Israeli regime, the Netanyahu regime, have merged. They speak the same. They use the same tactics. They have the same lack of morals, lack of values, and their thirst for violence and total warfare is synonymous now. They're dragging us back 80 years. So any progress, or at least even the illusion of progress, even if it's contentious progress, problematic progress. But they are now openly trying to turn the clock back 80 years or more. I would say even a few hundred years. If you combine this with this idea of Christian crusades and end times Armageddon, okay, Western civilization is proving that it has failed. It's a failure. If this is where they're taking us, the United States and Western civilization as a whole are an utter failure. Absolute, catastrophic, unmitigated disaster and a failure. Any progress that's been made up to this point, if this is the way it's going, and this is what people are going to accept as the new normal, you've achieved nothing. Western civilization it's a mirage. So in times like this, it's important that, music and art are still one of the best ways that we can communicate. We do what we can on that front. But one of the great people in this department, of course, is Joseph Arthur. Here's a clip from a discussion we had just last night, and a special rare performance by what I think is one of the greatest singer-songwriters of our generation, and definitely on the scene at the moment. So here's a little clip from our discussion. We'll bring this up in a moment. Hold on one second. So if our politicians, if our media, if people in general stuck to their principles rather than their party or rather than their perceived ideology or whatever they identify with political identity, but held the principles dear, I think we'd be in a better place. Just at least if anything goes wrong, there's a path to try to repair it. There's an off ramp. It's really difficult to see the off ramp at the moment, though. I admit I'm finding it very challenging, and
I don't see it. It's real spooky. It's it's terrifying, really. So, but I think that, and there you go. That's where the muse kicks you in the behind and says, dude, you got to write a song, because, you have a lot of people speaking on this stuff, news editorials and talking heads on the internet all over. But we also need music. We need songs to protest war and to try to bring about peace. I mean, everybody's got to sort of do their part to try to push humanity in the direction they wish it would go.
So anyway, we got a few minutes left, and I'm hoping we can get an unplugged rendition of this. What's this song called?
Nobody's War.
And how was it born? Tell us the the events that led up to this song being written and performed.
It was a poem in the gym. That's in the early AM, and then when I got home at night, and I didn't know if it was just going to be a poem. And then I like that, the opening line, nobody here wants your war. And I just picked this guitar up. That's why I'm playing this guitar, because this guitar gave it to me. And it came out. It's got it's an unusual tone for me, because it has kind of a reggae-ish vibe almost. I think you'll see in the melody or something. Which I wasn't going for. It's really just an unconscious expression, and then you find the lines and you just sort of work on a verse here and a verse there, and it came out in 15 minutes. Like I said, it came out really fast, and then I recorded it on a dictaphone and I posted it immediately with just a video picture that I put a glitch effect on and some lyrics, but I haven't put a proper version out yet, so this is like the debut.
Okay. Well, without further ado, the track is called Nobody's War I like I like it already with the title, but take it away.
All right, let me. Check 1, 2.
Nobody here wants your walk. We see through it all and we know the score. You sold yourself out just like before, chasing the ghost of something more. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. It's an endless need. An endless need. It's an endless need. Nobody here wants your war. Thousands will die, maybe many more. The ghost's gonna come knocking on your door. Nobody here wants your war. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. It's an endless need. An endless need. It's an endless need. Yeah. Nobody here wants your war. Schoolhouses burn and the ticker runs. Who were they to you? Maybe nothing more, but they were somebody's daughters and somebody's sons. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. It's an endless need. An endless need. It's an endless need.
All right, Joseph, Arthur. Amazing.
How'd that sound?
It good. I got big Masters of War vibes. This is almost like the sequel to that song.
Yeah, thank you.
It was good.
Yeah, I have it has a Master of War vibe with it. I wasn't trying for that, but I mean, maybe you always do when you're writing an anti-war song. I mean, he's the GOAT, as they say. But the reggae vibe too, there's like nobody here. I don't know where that came from. I mean, I never write that type of thing usually, so yeah, I don't know. But,
Nobody's War. Well, I think we might be hearing more of that song. We might be hearing more of that song.
For sure. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope we arrive at peace tomorrow, and and we don't need those kind of songs.
Wow. So that was fun. The full interview, it's about half hour long, and had a bit more of a deep discussion about stuff about Joseph's, what's going on in his life and with his art. So we're going to put that up on 21wire.tv after the show. So for members or subscribers at 21wire.tv, you'll be able to watch the full length of that, and we'll share that publicly later. We're still working on it, actually, cleaning it up a little bit. But yeah, that was something else. So that's Joseph Arthur, Nobody's War. Great track. Look, we're going to go to break here now. We're going to hopefully connect with our colleagues on the other side. This is the Sunday Wire. And if you're watching, this is actually episode 585. It's slightly mislabeled on the number. We're going to fix that over the break time. But so, yeah, we're going to have a couple of tracks. We'll play Joseph's first draft of Nobody's War on the break. And then after that, Sean Helton, the Real Anthem Band, has released a new track called Heaven Come Down, which is absolutely an incredible track. So we got a few new songs that we're going to unveil here during this break period before Overdrive segment here on the Sunday Wire this week. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly.
Nobody here wants your war. We see through it all and we know the score. You saw yourself off just like before, chasing the ghost of something more. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. It's an endless need. An endless need. It's an endless need. Nobody here wants your war. Thousands will die, maybe many more. The ghosts will find you knocking on your door. Nobody here wants your war. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. It's an endless need. Endless need. It's an endless need. Endless need. Nobody here wants your war. Schoolhouse is burning, the tickers run. Who were they to you? Nothing more. But they were somebody's daughter and somebody's son. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. More money, more death, more greed makes the children bleed. More oil, more land to feed. An endless need. It's an endlessly.
Psychosis.